Hey, this is your Student Success Coordinator, CJ Burnt, and we're going to spend the next 15 minutes or so learning about background checks and fingerprint clearance cards. We're going to cover a lot of ground during this recording. So before you leave, I want you to understand the general process and timelines for background checks and fingerprint cards. I need you to understand the importance of Castle Branch and also have the resources to create your profile. I want you to understand the fingerprinting process and register to get fingerprinted at our campus event, as well as understand how to register at the DPS website. There are fees for pretty much every step in the process, and I want you to be aware of what those fees are, what you're purchasing, and what your non-negotiable deadlines are. So what are we talking about exactly? Well, we're going to talk about processes, what we do and how we do it. We're also going to talk about the fees, who we pay, why we're paying them, and how much we're going to pay them. Lastly, we'll also be talking about timelines, when we do what needs to get done. The biggest thing I want you to understand about the background check is it has nothing to do with your fingerprints. This is a background check that you're going to purchase through Castle Branch. And in order to run that background, all they need is your information. So that would be your name, your address, social security number. That information is going to be run against several different databases. It will return a report that includes information regarding any kind of Patriot Act alerts, Social Security fraud alerts. It will also include your residency history and criminal records. And again, the criminal records piece is only about the information that may have been given to law enforcement at the time of booking, whether you provided that information or not. So it's really important that you go back and double check your background history. It will also include information about fraud and other database abuse checks. Castle Branch is essentially a database. Once you create your information and your background check comes back, it will be stored there, as well as photos of the front and back of your fingerprint card. You'll upload that there. More importantly, your Castle Branch profile will follow you throughout your program. It starts in your first term with your background and fingerprint card, and then it will transfer with you to core, and there you'll purchase a separate tracker to go through your checklist of all the core requirements like vaccines, information on titers, your drug test information. All of that will be stored in Castle Branch. Here's the information you need regarding Castle Branch. Step 1. You will create your profile and pay all the applicable fees. I will send you the link that will take you to the appropriate package that is associated with Arizona College of Nursing. Please follow the instructions to the letter because any kind of mistakes are very difficult to correct. You will order your background check. Remember that it will take several days to return, and you must check it for any kind of flags or alerts that need to be cleared up by June 23rd, 2023. When I look at your Castle Branch profile, I basically see check marks. I need to see 2 check marks, one for your background check that has been returned and cleared, and one for your fingerprint card that you've uploaded and has also been checked and cleared by Castle Branch. Your account is not considered in compliance unless both check marks appear by June 23rd, 2023. The fee to Castle Branch is $65, and what that does is it sets up your profile and purchases that comprehensive background check based on your information. You will pay that fee at the Castle Branch website at the time that you register. If you do not pay that fee and order your background check, I will not be able to see you on my roster, and you will also not be able to upload any documents that are needed. Your timeline for Castle Branch. It can take anywhere from 7 to 10 days for a background check to come back and be cleared. So you don't want to wait until 3 or 4 days before your deadline to order your Castle Branch background. You want to give yourself at least a month, just in case there's something on your background that needs to be corrected. All right, let's talk about your fingerprints. If you do not already have a fingerprint clearance card, this information is probably new to you. If you already have one, you can just skip ahead. Your prints are going to be handled by a couple different people. The first will be the fingerprint vendor, and they're going to capture your prints, whether you come to the event and get a wet print method, or you go out to the community and pay a vendor to capture them via live scan. They're the first people you're going to come into contact with regarding your fingerprints. Next will be the Department of Public Safety. You will either need to mail your prints in, or if they're live scanned electronically, that vendor will send those prints in for you. So that you can't really skip these two steps if you don't have your fingerprint card. You got to get printed and you got to get those prints over to the Department of Public Safety. Quick overview of the fingerprint process. Step 1, get fingerprinted. You can come to a campus event or go to a vendor in the community. Step 2, get your fingerprints to DPS. If you do the wet print method and put your fingerprints on the FD258, you will need to mail your prints to DPS. If you go to a vendor who does a live scan for you in the community, they will send your fingerprints to DPS for you. Then you will receive your card after DPS has processed your fingerprints. You're going to take a clear close-up photo of that card and scan it into Castle Branch. Let's talk about how much all this is going to cost. The fingerprinting fee, if you use our vendor and come to the event on March 6th, is $25. The vendor will take cash or debit or credit card, and they take that payment on the day of the event. That purchases your fingerprints being wet print captured on that FD258 card. I understand if you can't make it to the event, just choose a vendor in the community. I'll send that link below. I've seen the fees around $29, but I've also seen them go up to $100, and in a couple instances, I've seen them up at like $200. So if you can, try to make it to the event. Please be sure to RSVP. That way the fingerprint vendor can staff appropriately. While we don't have a specific timeline for getting fingerprinted, we do encourage you to get it done as quickly as possible. If you can attend the event on March 6th, we strongly recommend you do so. If you cannot, I would strongly recommend that you go to a vendor in the community as close to March 6th as you can. You definitely don't want to wait around on getting your fingerprints captured so you can send them to DPS, but I'm going to talk more about that in a moment. The Department of Public Safety is a state agency, and they oversee the safety of Arizona's citizens. Now, they are the only entity that can process your fingerprints, essentially, whether you have them wet captured or scanned. The Department of Public Safety is going to take that information from your fingerprints themselves and then run them against fingerprints in state, local, and federal agencies. Those fingerprints would have been captured at the time of booking. So with that agency being the only one who can process fingerprint clearance cards, they're pretty backlogged. So we always recommend that you register at the website and bring your application number to the event or to the vendor of your choosing, and get your prints off to DPS as soon as possible because they're so backlogged. I know I've thrown a lot at you as far as this whole process. I will include the link to the DPS video on how to apply. They've got a really comprehensive video on step-by-step applications on their website, and I'll make sure that you get a copy of that. Just remember to order the non-IVP card when you fill out your application, whether you do it by paper or on the website. The fee for the Department of Public Safety to process your fingerprints is $65. This fee is separate from the Castle Branch fee. This allows them to scan and check your fingerprints against state, local, and federal agencies that may have captured your fingerprints at the time of booking. I always recommend that you pay that $65 fee on the website. So all you have to bring with you to the event is an application number. They put that on your FD258 card with your fingerprints on it. If you do not want to pay on the website, it's fine. You can do a paper application at the event. You'll just need to buy a check or a money order or a cashier's check in order to cover the $65 fee. It makes it harder for me to track your application if you apply by paper, but do what is best for you and will help you meet your deadline on time. I feel like I cannot stress this enough. Please give yourself at least 8 weeks for DPS to process your fingerprints and mail your card back to you. I get students every term whose deadline is 3 days away. They'll call or email me and tell me they're going to do their fingerprints next week. If that happens, you may be dropped from the program. So please give yourself that 8-week window at the very least in order to have your fingerprints processed and the plastic fingerprint card in your possession. I know I've thrown a lot at you, but let's do a quick recap. You will need to set up your Castle Branch account and purchase your background check. Next, if you do not have a fingerprint clearance card, you will need to get your fingerprints captured, either at our event or at a vendor in the community. You'll need to mail your fingerprints to DPS for them to process. After DPS has successfully processed your fingerprints, they're going to mail a plastic card to you. You will take photos of the front and back of that card and upload it to your Castle Branch account. It does take a few days for Castle Branch to review those cards and approve it. So please make sure that you upload that card to Castle Branch within a week of your deadline. I made this little timeline for the whole process. Those of you who came to New Student Orientation, we talked a little bit about this. I invited you to some in-person and virtual workshops, and you can count this recording as a workshop. So later this week, I'll be sending out some reminders and information to students to make sure that you can register for everything and get your process started. March 6th, we have that on-site fingerprint event. Sometime around week 4, about halfway through your first term, I'm going to send a due date reminder and some follow-ups. I guarantee you, if you have not already purchased your Castle Branch background check, you will hear from me. So I will also send out more reminders around week 8. That's the end of your first term. That deadline is pretty critical because at that point you've only got 8 weeks to get that fingerprint card processed and sent back and uploaded to Castle Branch. So if you have not taken any action toward getting fingerprinted by the end of your first term, you're cutting your deadlines really close. Though I will continue to support people all the way up until the deadline and try to help you get resources and whatever information you need to be successful. Before I let you go, I want to just try some tips for meeting your deadline. Please start today. I've already talked to you about your deadline, June 23rd, 2023, and how long it can take for DPS to process your fingerprints. And if anything comes up on your background that you need to clear up, all of that can cause delays and use up that 16-week window that you have pretty quickly. If you need to, make a financial plan. So maybe the only thing you can afford this week is to get fingerprinted. So do that. And then maybe next week you can afford to purchase the DPS application and then mail everything off. Then you can purchase your Castle Branch. I always recommend that people break things up if they're strapped for cash, because spending this kind of money all in one shot can be stressful sometimes. So reach out to me if you need ideas on how to split this up but still meet your deadline. After you've ordered your background check and uploaded your fingerprint cards, you should always check on your Castle Branch profile to make sure that everything is approved and that you don't need to use up any more time trying to fix errors or clarify anything on your background. Please stay in touch with your Student Success Coordinator regarding your progress in the event that there's anything that we can do to help you. Please remember that both your background check and your fingerprint clearance card must be uploaded to and approved by Castle Branch no later than June 23rd, 2023. We made it. I know we covered a lot of information and you've probably got questions. Please reach out to me, your Student Success Coordinator, CJ Burnt. My email address is cburnt, that's C as in Charlie, B as in boy, ER, N as in Nancy, D as in Delta, T as in Thomas, cburnt at arizonacollege.edu. My phone number is 480-344-1252, extension 1286. If you happen to be on campus between the hours of 10 and 6, you can drop by the third floor and I'll be happy to help you. Just make sure that you get your questions to me in plenty of time for me to be able to actually assist you. I want to thank you for investing this time in your success. Thank you for joining me today and good luck on meeting your deadline. Have a great day.